Are you free? No, you're not free. And it's about damn time that we live free again. That's why we're here. And again, to my colleagues on this side of the aisle, I don't care about your checklist of stuff you want to campaign on. I don't care about what you don't want to vote on. I care about one thing and one thing only, and that is living free. It is our God-given right. It is what people bled and died for. Living free, imperfect, in a sinful world, but free. And that is our calling. That is our duty. Our duty isn't to get reelected. Our duty is to fight for the people who sent us here to fight for them against a cultural elite who wants to rip away their lives. And that is what my mission is every day when I wake up in this godforsaken town.
A government that can censor its critics has license for every atrocity. It is the beginning of totalitarianism. There's never been a time in history when we look back and the guys who were censoring people were the good guys. All of us grew up reading Arthur Koestler, Robert Heinlein, Aldous Huxley, George Orwell, and they were all saying the same thing. Once you start censoring, you're on your way to dystopia and totalitarianism.
You turned down a $9 million movie role in 2021 because you wouldn't take the COVID vaccine being mandated in Hollywood at the time. Any regrets? It's a lot of money.
Not at all. Not one regret.
You know my thought when I heard that story? You must be even richer than I think you are.
You know, your health is worth more than all the money in the world. To me, it was an experimental drug, and they had no time to really see the long-term effects. It's kind of like the war machine. You know, if you make the bullets and the Band-Aids, you're gonna always want to be in war because it's profitable.
They've gone after every lawyer who has ever defended Donald Trump or anything relating to Donald Trump, including me. They filed a bar complaint against me. The motivation behind it, they're very clear, is because I defended Donald Trump on the floor of the Senate. They search and they go through everything and they find anything that they can possibly use as a basis. The 65 Project is McCarthyism on steroids. It's a group of radical, leftist, bigoted lawyers who have determined that they will go after and punish any lawyer who defended either Donald Trump or anything relating to the Trump administration. It's just like McCarthyism, but it's worse because, again, it's young lawyers, people who look to the future, and people who think they're doing the right thing. It's one of the most disgraceful episodes in American history. Today, it's Donald Trump. Tomorrow, they'll go after lawyers who defend people they don't like, people who are conservatives. We must attack that, and we must attack on the basis of principle.
My preferred pronouns. What do you think my preferred pronouns are?
What do you mean? What does that even mean?
Use your brain.
You're a woman.
Incorrect.
Okay, I'm gonna educate you. If you were biologically born with women parts, you're a woman.
I'm being educated about my gender identity.
You don't. So gender identity is a lie. It's fake. There's only two genders: a man and a woman. And you know. Let me ask you a question. How many gender identities are there in nature? How many genders are in a lion?
Oh my goodness.
No, because look, if it's natural, it should be in nature. So let me ask you a question. How many genders do a lion have?
Paul, 1 sec.
How many genders do a monkey have? How many genders do a zebra have? How come human beings, if this is true and it's natural, how come human beings are the only one with gender fluidity? Because it's not true. Do horses have multiple genders? No.
He just destroyed her whole world.
The hair alone tells you everything you need to know.
My understanding is that Zuckerberg spent $400 million in the last election, nominally in a get-out-the-vote campaign, but really fundamentally in support of Democrats. Is that accurate or not accurate?
That is accurate.
Yes. Does that sound unbiased to you?
No, it doesn't.
Yes.
In order for civilization to advance, we've got to have freedom of speech. We've got to have a digital, So, thank you. It's a bigger deal than you'd think. And it's the kind of thing that you don't know what you're missing until you don't have it. And in a lot of places, people don't have it. And so it's important to bear in mind that the nature of free speech is, the acid test for it is, are people you don't like allowed to say things that you don't like? Otherwise, it's not free. It can't be just things that you like, because eventually somebody's not going to like what you say, and they're going to shut you up. And that's the essence of free speech, and that's why it's the First Amendment in this country. And if we lose that, I think we lose the bedrock of democracy.
Guys, this is right now in Lukeville, Arizona, just outside of Sonoita, Mexico. Hundreds of illegals under this tent. I'm going to show you from this side over here. Mostly fighting age men, the vast majority. Central Africa, West Africa, the Middle East, Egypt. We have them coming from everywhere, guys. They're trying to hide it from you. Mayorkas is trying to hide it from you. They've moved it out here into the middle of nowhere in Arizona. Thanks to Katie Hobbs, the cartel governor. This is what you get under open borders, leftist Democrats. Everything Mayorkas is telling you is a lie. They're inviting people to come in illegally under CBP 1. They're allowing illegals to come across illegally still, and they're profiting the cartels, because all of these people take Border Patrol resources away, so Border Patrol can't cover out in the desert. And this is the area that the cartels send the worst of the worst. That's what open borders Democrats are doing.
According to the music industry, this Jason Aldean song about self-defense, protecting yourself from criminals, and small-town values is too violent to be on the airwaves.
Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. Yeah, you think you're tough? Well, try that in a small town.
But apparently it is perfectly fine for rappers to promote stuff like this.
A young on the warpath, and when I finish, it's gonna be a bloodbath of cops dying in LA. Yo, Dre, I got something to say. Police through New York, then they go and shoot New Jersey up. We gon' come and blow New Jersey up.
Make that pull-out game weak. If you ask me, something is very backwards about what we value as a culture. Leave a like if you agree.
Biden administration has a fatal attraction to nutty ideas. In my opinion, it's a moranathon, and it is just further evidence that crazy never takes a day off in Washington, D.C. when President Biden's in charge. You know, it's also going to be very unpopular, particularly the price rises. Polling clearly shows, fairly or unfairly, that a majority of Americans think that President Biden is on a day pass from the nursing home. And further polling shows that at the moment the president is about as popular as a colonoscopy.
Here's the other thing that's really absurd. We talked about Steve D'Antuono. They flew a search team from Washington field office, from my old office, down to Miami, a place where they have plenty of FBI agents. The Bureau writes its own checks, right? It's an $11 billion a year federal agency. So they don't care. They're not trying to run it like a business like you are. They don't care about the cost. And the funny thing is this, you flew agents from one place to another. Why? Generally what we do is we cut what's called a lead. I send a lead down to you, you work in Miami, you get the lead, okay, we're serving a search warrant, okay, make sure you send me the document, send me the different attachments that I'm gonna have, attachment A and B, it tells me where I'm going and what's gonna be there and what I'm looking for, and then they go serve the search warrant. Every agent can substitute the job of every other agent. If I'm doing defense for Trump, I'm going to say, did you fly down from Washington field office to Mar-a-Lago to conduct the search warrant? Yes. Have you ever done that in any case before? No. Is it common in your experience to have people come in and fly in from another area to go conduct a search? No. Why did you do it then? Because that's the real question.
Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag. down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't try that in a small town.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to everyone. Just have some administrative matters first. I wanted to introduce into the record page 55 from the committee's interview with FBI employee Roya Demlow, who you just spoke about, which took place on July 17, 2023. In that line, she says, the question was asked, okay, if someone were to leave here today, were to leave this interview and were to suggest or imply that when you said the laptop was real, that it meant that the FBI had affirmatively determined in October 2020 that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden, that the contents belonged to Hunter Biden, and that the contents had not been manipulated in some way, would they be representing what you said, correct? Answer by Ms. Demlow. They would be representing what I said because I don't have much knowledge of that. They would be misrepresenting what I said because I don't have much knowledge of that. Because this committee likes to misrepresent or leave off complete sentences of what individuals said.
The founders and the framers of our Constitution knew that democracy was a very inefficient system, that it had all of these built-in inefficiencies and difficulties. They said that they felt that it would give us the one thing that would give us an advantage over totalitarian systems was this capacity for the free flow of information and a complete lack of control of debate, so that ideas that would eventually mature into policies would be annealed in a furnace of debate and then rise through the marketplace of ideas rather than being dictated from above. And that's what would give the energy, the vibrancy, the vigor to democracy. When they invented this democracy, we were the first one in the modern era in 1780. 1865, 5 other nations had imitated us. Today, it's 190 nations based upon our system. We are supposed to be the exemplary democracy, and the corner foundation stone of our system is freedom of speech. All of the other freedoms depend on it. If we lose that, not only do we lose our democracy in this country, but the entire world loses us as an example.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better.
I just don't agree with your facts. We don't own a private jet. I don't own a private jet. I personally have never owned a private jet.
You just testified under oath that you never owned a private jet. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record article here from February 15th of 2023. The John Kerry family private jet was sold shortly after accusations of climate hypocrisy. Mr. Secretary, do you stand by that testimony that you've never owned or
I personally,
your family?
I
your family?
Personally, yes, my wife owned a plane.
Listen to those words. I've never owned a private jet. We've never owned a private jet. I personally have never owned a private jet. Sir, you're about to commit perjury. Would you like to correct the record? Well, I've never owned one, but my wife did.
Let me ask you a fourth time. If President Lopez Obrador invited the American military and our law enforcement personnel to come into Mexico and work with his, we could stop the cartels, couldn't we?
I believe, Senator, that we can stop the cartels.
Okay, have you made that suggestion to President Biden?
If I could, I believe that we can stop the cartels by...
Have you made that suggestion to President Biden?
Senator, I have been very vocal.
Why hasn't President Biden done it? I mean, This is the way the American people, whose sons and daughters are dying, look at it. Without the people of America, Mexico, figuratively speaking, would be eating cat food out of a can and living in a tent behind an outback. So why don't you and the president get on the phone and call President Lopez Obrador and make him a deal he can't refuse to allow our military and our law enforcement officials to go into Mexico and work with his to stop the cartels? Why don't you do that?
That's why they're so desperate to get rid of cash. If you have a $50 bill and I give it to the barber for my haircut, and then he goes and buys groceries with it from the grocer, and the grocer goes and gets his car washed, the $50 goes from place to place, and after 20 or 30 transactions, the $50 bill belongs to somebody and it's worth $50. Whereas if I pay by card, 1.5% goes to the bank. And then if he takes the money I've given him and pays for the groceries, 1.5% goes to the bank. And after the groceries have been paid for, when he goes to get his car washed, 1.5% goes to the bank. So after 20 or 30 transactions, $50 is gone, the bank has it all. 1950s and 60s, if you were to agree with every single narrative and obey every single law and do exactly what you were supposed to do and pay your taxes, etc., you'd at least get a wife who respected you. You'd at least have children who go to school without being indoctrinated to a degree. You could have a nice house. You could have a pickup truck. You could have a pretty good life if you just followed the rules. I don't think that's true anymore. If you're a man who was born and you decide to do exactly as you're told, you're going to end up depressed, in debt, working a job that you hate, with a wife who doesn't respect you, with kids who don't listen to you, in a house you don't own, until she leaves you, and then you contemplate a while, and maybe you might find some purpose towards the end, enough to survive and pay your taxes, and then you're gone. I don't think a man who just follows the programming is going to find any happiness.
So, using those temperatures, we have been able to reconstruct the temperatures of the last 10,000 years. Here we have our picture of the temperature reconstructions that we have from Greenland in a graphical form. And if we go back along this axis, it's going back in time. This is the last 8,000 years we have plotted here. On this axis we have the temperatures at the site in Greenland, and we can see that if we go back from now about 4,000 years ago, we would have temperatures up here for about 4,000 years that were 2.5 degrees warmer on average than today. Now as we approach our time, we can see that in the period between 4,000 years ago and back to the period 2,000 years ago, which is actually the Roman age, the temperatures have been decreasing in Greenland by 2.5 degrees. Then the temperatures increased gradually up to a maximum point around the medieval warm period, we call it 1,000 years ago. And then temperatures declined and goes down to a minimum around 1650 AD, comes back up a little in the 18th century, and then around 1875 we have the lowest point in the last 8,000 years, right here, and that matches exactly the time when meteorological observations start.
Pay attention to these Democrats when they climb up on their little platforms and they start trying to paint the victim narrative, right? Because that shit needs to stop. We need to stop going along with what they're telling us. And we need to look for ourselves, and we need to think for ourselves. We don't need these fucking Democrats fighting for us. We don't need them doing us any favors. We don't need any handouts from these politicians, bro. So just keep that in mind. Next time they climb up on their platform and they start telling us we're the victims, look around you. Are we really the victims? Are we really the victims? I don't feel victimized. And I'm a Hispanic. Us Hispanic folks are more Republican than we think. We don't believe in free shit. Do our parents believe in free shit? Handouts? Give me this, give me that? No. We believe in hard work pays off. And we work for whatever the fuck we want to get. If we want something, we're going to go out and earn it, right? That's what our parents believe in. That's what our people believe in. So why the fuck are we letting these Democrats get up on their platforms and call us weak and vulnerable and convincing us that we need their handouts? Pay attention to the manipulation, folks. It's real.
First, I want to direct this to Miss Skinny Minnie.
Which Miss Skinny Minnie?
Isn't her name Mimi or Skinny Minnie?
Yeah, okay, Mimi.
Well, the skinniest girl up there. She made a comment that you have to have a lot of willingness and motivation to be skinny.
I was quoting Dr. Kelly Brownell of Yale. That's what he said.
I don't care who you was quoting. You said it, own it.
I agree with him, absolutely.
Okay, good. But I'm a plus-size model. I am willing and motivated to wake up every day to keep these curves. I don't want to wake up and look like you and be confused and quoting everybody.
Okay, but let me ask you a question while you're standing up. Why is it okay for you to call her Skinny Minnie, but it's not okay for her to comment about someone's size that's larger?
Well, I don't know her name. So, okay, you got me on that, but moving on.
No, you said it. Own it.
What's up, bro? Did you go to the parade this weekend?
Did not.
They shouldn't have kids there, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be naked in front of the kids.
I don't say they have to shut that shit down, but I say they shouldn't have kids there.
I agree. I don't have a parade for who I want to fuck, so.
I don't have a parade for who I want to fuck.
That's got to be the name of the episode.
God, that guy's cool.
We're here for one reason. We love the United States of America. The minute they hand you that passport, every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates. And what do we do about this? We resist. Nobody in history of the planet has ever complied their way out of totalitarian control. That's why we need to resist today. You, all of you in the crowd, I thank you, I love you. You came out on this cold, cold day to do your duty for the United States of America. Let's go and fight for freedom, and let's build back for our children the America that our parents fought and died for. Thank you very much.
Maybe January 6th, while appalling on one level, maybe it was not an insurrection.
I'll be very honest with you. You want to know what caused January 6th? There's such a temptation to say that there's one man whose name is unspeakable. We can't.
No, first of all, it's QAnon. It's QAnon.
It's QAnon. You want to know what caused January 6th? Is pervasive censorship in this country in the lead up to January 6th. You tell people in this country they cannot speak, that is when they scream. You tell people they cannot scream, that is when they tear things down. And so the reality is, we were told that you could not question where the virus came from when we all knew it came from a lab in Wuhan, which now they admit. We were told that you could not send a private message to someone on the eve of an election, that Hunter Biden's laptop story was actually a true story worth considering before an election. You were systematically suppressed. So think about this. You told you had to be locked down, had to take a vaccine that was mandated and forced down your throat, stay locked down in your home while Antifa and BLM roam and burn the streets of this country. So that's the lead up of one full year of telling people you have to shut up, sit down, and do as you're told. And then you tell them, okay, there's an election where you didn't get the information that you needed, such as the Hunter Biden laptop story being real and suppressed. That's what caused January 6th, is a cycle of censorship in this country. And until we look ourselves in the mirror and admit truth on that, we will not move forward as a country.
We're fed up with the Green New Deal and the socialists who created it. We're fed up with the attacks on our fossil fuel and energy industries. We're fed up with an open border. We're fed up with human trafficking. We're fed up with fentanyl flooding our country. And we're fed up with illegal immigration. We're fed up with critical race theory. We're fed up with boys competing in girls' sports. We're fed up with... We're fed up with the liberal media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and YouTube for blocking conservative speech. We're fed up with our government and universities censoring conservative thought, canceling debate, and rewriting history. We're fed up with the corruption in the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, the NSA, and the Poison Court. We're fed up with mask mandates, vaccine mandates, the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, and the misinformation campaign surrounding COVID-19. And we're fed up with Anthony Fauci. We're fed up with the politicians and the elitists in D.C. who are...
Listen to what Michelle Obama said in response to this opinion today. Of course, students on my campus and countless others across the country were and continue to be granted special consideration for admissions. Some have parents who graduated from the same school. Others have families who can afford coaches to help them run faster and hit a ball harder. Others go to high schools with lavish resources for tutors and extensive standardized test prep. So often we just accept that money, power, and privilege are perfectly justifiable forms of affirmative action, while kids growing up like I did are expected to compete when the ground is anything but level. You know what, Michelle? Same. And I'm white. I didn't have any of those advantages. I showed up the day of the SAT. I was like, it's the SAT today? Oh, shit. Okay. My friend loaned me a pencil. I never took a review class. We didn't have the money for anything. Like, it's not just a black thing, but she and other progressives, Jason, are going to completely tie the racial inequity and its ongoing nature to this decision.
If you really want to kill the most things, be a vegan. Because the farmers who protect your beans kill everything. I kill one animal per arrow. In order to grow tofu, you have to kill every ground squirrel, every vole, every shrew, every snake, every turtle, every frog, every bird, every rabbit. Anything that gets in that bean field, I'm either going to plow and dismember, and then if anything does survive my first slaughter, I'm going to come in with Monsanto and poison the shit out of everything so you can have a tofu salad and not be responsible for any death. Fuck you.
We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word.
Everyone understood what Ray Epps did on January 5th and January 6th. Why was the standard that Jacob Chansley was held to not applied to Ray Epps? Why was the standard that Stuart Rhodes was held to not applied to Ray Epps? Why was Ray Epps held to this different standard? This is a normal question, one that we should be asking, because we are the government. And when those who we have entrusted with the application or the execution of our government are behaving corruptly or not fulfilling their duties, it is our duty, not just our right, but our duty to ask questions. Why was Ray Epps held to a different standard?
We are here today to tell you, WHO globalitarian misanthropists, you picked this fight, you wanted this fight. Well, guess what? You've got it. Let's fight. Because these brave citizens, my colleagues and I, we will not tire to fight you every step of the way. These brave 7 citizens and millions more around the world, these are the people you will have to reckon with from now on, because we are millions around the world. It is you that is the small fringe minority. You are the ones who do not have the right to dictate to the people what they want and what they don't want. So, take it from me, take it from us, take it from these 7 citizens who gathered here today. We will bring you down, and we will not tire until we have done just that.
You've all heard the news. Climate change is destroying your future. Carbon dioxide is accumulating in the atmosphere. Global warming is killing the Great Barrier Reef. But there's more to this story. Over the last decade, total global emissions declined. Deaths from natural disasters have diminished to a few hundred a year in the United States, even as the global population quadrupled over the last century. They've declined internationally by over 90%. The Great Barrier Reef recorded the highest amount of coral in 36 years, and maybe longer, because that's the amount of time that we've been studying and measuring. How come nobody is saying that?
Put it out there. I'm probably going to go to jail for it, okay? Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. Peacefully.
You're not gonna
Fuck this guy,
dude. You can't do anything. I got bare mask. What the fuck are you gonna do?
On the lows of the New World Order, it's Alex Jones.